Hi, and welcome again, everybody. It's Thank you so much for joining us, either in the flesh or if you're watching this on a Zoom call somewhere. My task is to just kind of outline what is it we're trying to achieve as we meet like this. I have been so challenged about One Church during the time of lockdown and during the pandemic. Challenged because I've missed so much. Challenged because there were probably some changes that we needed to think about, and we just didn't get round to kind of doing because life happens. But then the pandemic comes, and there's suddenly a pause and a little bit of a longer sort of breath to go. Oh, hold on a minute. How are we doing? And can we be doing things better? I was thinking about this and thinking, what's the aim? Is it that we want to be a more successful church? And maybe in one sense, yes, but that's a horrible word, isn't it? And it makes me feel so uncomfortable. But what if we were trying to be a more progressive church? In other words, what if we were trying to make more progress? What if that was a good image for us to think about this morning? Because we've spoken quite a lot recently, and over the years actually of being One Church, that we don't follow a kind of static Christ who sits on the throne, but actually a Christ who is active through his Spirit in the world, and we're asked to follow. And that notion of movement and movement towards, rather than a kind of solid set belief that you hold and then do nothing else. What does it mean to progress? What does it mean to move towards the heart of who God is, towards the heart of our communities, towards the heart of change and seeing God's kingdom come more and more in and around us as a church? And this morning we could go into all kinds of rabbit holes about One Church, across its whole kind of spectrum of what it does, the projects, the way we do small groups and midweek stuff and hospitality together. And they're all good questions that we should ask. But today we're trying to ask really a simple question around Sundays, the gathered thing that we do. What would that look like for us to have made progress over this time where we've had to pause and think, so that when we gather again, there is a sense that we haven't just pressed pause, but actually we have thoughtfully come back. Now, it's entirely possible that when we pause, we think actually the thing that stopped is what we want to go back to. And I think that might be okay. It might be okay if we say what we've realised is that we missed that and we want that pretty much as was. And there's always going to be changing in what we teach on and that sort of thing. There's always going to be minor adjustments that we can make to make sure it's a more inclusive kind of service. And we should definitely be doing that. But are we thinking that there is sort of wholesale change needed in this gap? Or are we thinking maybe more small, incremental? And as I've spoken with my friends and with people like Kath and Sam, not my friends and Kath and Sam, they're also my friends, but as we've chatted, we're not entirely clear. We're not entirely clear because we're not entirely clear where everybody is, because we don't see so many people as we used to ask them where they are. So this morning is about that. What do you feel about our Sunday gathered thing? What did you feel about it? If you can cast your mind back that nearly a year and a half to think about, what did you feel? What were your emotions attached to that? How has it felt in the gap in between? And do you have some thoughts about how we progress forwards as we begin to meet? There's a quote that I read this week by someone called Neil Donald Walsh, and I think this is so helpful. He said this: yearning for a new way will not produce it. Only ending the old way can do that. You cannot hold on to the old all the while declaring that you want something new. The old will defy the new. The old will deny the new. The old will decry the new. There is only one way to bring in the new. You must make room for it. I found that so helpful. There's only one way to bring in the new. You must make room for it. So rather than have a Sunday where everything just starts back up again, we will be having Sundays over these coming months where we are making room for the new thing. Even if it looks pretty similar to what we did before, We want to be a church that's open to progress. Who felt excluded from the way that we did church before? How could we do more intimacy and more interdependence and more inclusion and more the other eyes? I do know them because I've got integrity. But how can we bring those into our Sundays? So get your thinking caps on that way. Whoever's in the room now will take over and take you through some questions. But that's what we're trying to achieve. How do we come back and do that in a way that is progressive? Because we've made room for new things, because we've listened to one another, we've heard the kind of heart of where we're at. And then when we know where we're at, we can begin to sort of plot a route towards where we think we should be. Thanks so much, and I hope that you have a fun time together.